Okay, so this is take probably 42. Just kidding. I did record one other video though, and it was too long. Couldn't upload it. So I'm going to try this again and hopefully be a little more concise. No promises. That being said, before I started, I do want to thank production. The graphics were amazing. The game was run really well. I want to apologize. I know that I've probably, like, you put up with a lot of shit. Mainly for me, a lot of questions from both of us. And I know that I can be a pain to host, and honestly to the players, probably a pain in the ass to play with at times, or most of the time. And people may not be aware, but as much as James and I fought with people in the game, we fought with each other probably just as much. And I'm still thankful that James said he would play with me. And I really hope that despite the discord that him and I have had, even including right now, because we don't necessarily see eye to eye, that we become better friends. And it's a challenge. And I hope that even with the people in this game that we're able to get past this and realize this is a game and become friends. As far as the game, I know that the best decisions are not always made in the heat of the moment. And I'm generally okay with conflict. I deal with it a lot. But I do also try to avoid it if I can, because I know I can make things worse. This season, apparently my choice to avoid conflict was to leave chats. It seemed easier to me than trying to keep my mouth shut, because that's difficult for me. I'm opinionated, I'm brash, I say what I think, and it sometimes comes out like a complete and utter bitch, and I know. And I can't say it was the best decision, it was the right decision, it was the wrong decision. I don't know, like, I felt like at the time it was the best for me, because I know I can be, I'm at least somewhat aware of how I can be. And honestly, the hardest point in this game for me was probably when James and Rachel were arguing in the chat. James asked me not to engage and to stay out of it, and I did. That was hard. And I can't say that I always stayed out of situations. I've left chats because I was pissed off, but then messaged somebody. Because I also have a hard time letting things go. I don't like people being mad at me, and I think that was also a struggle for me in this game. Knowing that people thought things about me, not being able to talk to them, not being able to, like, make people understand where I was coming from. And if anything, it's a reflection of life, knowing that people can't always see things the way that you see them, and just understanding that. When it comes to the game, if I had $1 for every time somebody told me that winning a challenge, or winning challenges won't win you a game, I'd have at least $100. That saying is said to me a lot, because I am known, at least to some, as a challenge beast. And I'm not going to say that winning challenges is why we deserve to win. I can't deny that we won challenges, but I definitely don't think that that's the only reason as to why we should win. But I do think it plays a factor into, one, how we got here, and two, why we should win. I mean, just to talk about some of those things, we did win as a duo 4 HOHs and 3 POVs. We also had a secret veto based on the power competitions, but we never had to use that power. Even when it was downgraded to a steal a vote, I think it was, we didn't use it. We were HOH the last round powers could play. We didn't really avoid trying to be seen as a challenge threat. We won the first HOH. But we somehow, despite winning HOHs and POVs, despite playing the only superpower in the game, we never truly faced an eviction until this final, like literally this last round when Adrian and Mallory chose to take us to the end. We were nominated one time in round 11 with a supposed backdoor plan for Kenchel, but that round we won POV. So we never stayed on the block to face a vote. And that plays into, I think, the challenge aspect, because we wanted to take ourselves off or keep our safe, but also the social fact that we never got nominated outside of the one time. I do think going into that, a lot of questions or comments might be made in regards to our social game. And on some level, I can't deny that it sucked at times. Mistakes were definitely made by both of us. And looking back, I really think there's things that both of us probably could have handled differently and would handle differently, or at least try to. But now that we're here, all we can do is own our actions and kind of, talk about them. And we can't really rationalize. I don't want to say or try to excuse my behavior. My behavior was my behavior. But I try to think that there was a reason for most of it. And not everybody will understand that, but all we can do is try. That being said, the first part of the social aspect in this game, outside of the normal Big Brother, gameplay, were the social points. And to get an advantage, you needed 75 social points. To get a challenge or superpower, you needed 150. Throughout the game, we managed to get 165. And a lot of that was before they were upped, or they changed the amounts. So as far as I know, at least even to this stage, we were the only team to get a superpower. And really early on in the game, James and I we really thought from probably week 2 that our days were numbered. I never imagined jury, honestly, in this game until we got to the point that we were there, or that we played the superpower to get there. I think that was huge. When it comes to the social game, we also won the round 11 HOH, which was the social strategic scavenger hunt, where we had to get pictures from previous evictees, from prior alumni, yourself, things like that. And you had to communicate with the other teams to make sure you guys weren't overlapping in what you were submitting. And we worked really hard. I worked really hard specifically to get the pictures and stuff. James worked really hard on doing the ones for us. And then we talked and communicated with the teams. And I think that was huge, that so far into the game, despite our arguments with people, despite the fact that we had won so many challenges, despite the fact we'd played a superpower, we were still able to communicate enough with the teams that we managed to win that challenge. And we won the challenge, I think, by at least 1 or 2 points. And I think that was huge. We worked to make sure that we were getting stuff from them, and we gave other people stuff. We didn't hide things from them. And I think I waited till probably the last minute to submit on that one too. And even then I still kind of messed up because I submitted something that somebody had told me they were submitting and I screwed up. But I think that was big for us, being that late into the game. We were still able to play a social aspect, and we kept ourselves off the block. So when it comes to gameplay, James and I are totally different people. On some level that made us have a lot of conflict, on another level that complemented things. But it really did create a lot of difficulty between us that we had to deal with. Some people may or may not believe it, and some people know me better. I really stand by honesty and loyalty in games. I can't say that it helped me more than it hurt me, specifically the Matt and Marcia vote, where we got the disadvantage. If my dog barks, I apologize. Sadie. James really felt like me lying at times was probably necessary, but I pretty much refused. I didn't necessarily stop him from lying, but I didn't want to be a part of it. James likes to play on the edge. He likes to stir the pot. He liked to cause drama by stirring the pot, and he did that. The very first round we won HOH, we found ourselves really not necessarily knowing what to do. Sorry. We really didn't think we'd last long anyway, so James wanted to stir the pot, and so I let him. And during the nominations, James said that he had information that led, that were presented to us that led kind of for the basis of our nominations, which was completely false. We had no information. We had no basis, but it really kind of made drama erupt in our house. People were explaining things, saying they were added to alliances that they didn't agree to, things like that. People were blaming other people, saying it was their fault, they were doing this. It was crazy. Our house got really messy very quick. Then later on during an HOH, James asked duos to send him 2 names, or I think he asked for 2 names, who they would nominate. And he said he wouldn't give it out, who said who. And I think for most, as far as I know, he held true to that. He didn't, that was not the basis or reason for why we nominated how we did. It was more for information, and to stir the pot, maybe to help us later on down the road. As far as the votes, he was pretty honest. Drew and Clark did get the most, I think with 5. But there was a tie between Steph and Bobby and Adrian and Mallory, with 3 votes after that. But we were trying to hide, or not expose that alliance, that we had with Adrian and Mallory. And so he, because I didn't really do it, didn't say that they had tied with Steph and Bobby, but said Steph and Bobby had 3, and so they went up with Drew and Clark. Steph and Bobby were never the target, but really we did it to stir the pot, to get information. But our plan and our goal that round was always the same, regardless of what other people said to us. And I know that a lot of people got into arguments with us. It got a little heated in the main chat at times, sorry. But I really hope that people realize that none of it was done personally. We didn't have any alternate motives regarding it. both James and I are very passionate people. We are both very opinionated. And we both sometimes have an inability to back down or just to shut our trap. And there's no excuse for that. That's just who we are. And I'm sorry that it got so bad at times. As far as loyalties, our loyalties in this game did change a lot. Maybe not a lot, but quite a bit in the beginning. Initially, I felt very close to the Faircloths, to Missy and Chris, and to Dom and Allie. That very first Sean and Cheryl vote, things got a little messy. There was, I think, a misconception. Not even a misconception. We voted very early because the deadline was 11 a.m., which for us being on the West is hard because James works nights, and that's 8 a.m. for him. It's 9 a.m. for me, and I have to go to work right away and get up. I don't have time to sit here and strategize about a vote. And it was like the second vote, and so we didn't know that we couldn't change votes at that point. And so I think the Faircloths felt like we just did what we wanted. And in our mind, we did, but we also felt like we did what was best. And it just created a really sticky situation between the people we thought we were wanting to work with this game. That being said, it kind of made things really sticky with all of us. And so at that point, James really liked Nick and Shay. And so we communicated more. At the swap, Adrian and Mallory felt like they were on the bottom of dark. And so the three of us all joined together. And really, like, that alliance, we stayed loyal the entire game. One big misconception with the Sean and Cheryl vote that when they actually went home, is there's no denying that we wanted them gone. We actually wanted them gone the round before it was. Primarily due to their sheer social game. And I think that's scary. Like, I especially recognize challenges don't necessarily win you the game. Your relationships can be a solid factor as to why you get a vote. Like, you may completely hate somebody and they just won't get your vote. Relationships play, and I think that was the biggest fear I had in regards to both of them. But the round they went home, a double vote was used. And the misconception, and I don't know how long, if people ever realized it, that double vote was not used by any of us three. Nick and Shay, Adrian, Mallory, or myself and James. I literally got a phone call from James about the results because I was floored. I do think that loyalty is huge to me in games. And we did our best to be loyal to people, specifically our three alliance. But while being loyal, we also still managed, I think, in our opinion, to play the game for ourselves. We did moves that we felt benefited us that necessarily wasn't best for our alliance in the long run, but I think we were still loyal to them, so we were going to try to protect them. Specifically, that, I guess the biggest sign of that was the vote, the Faircloths versus Steph and Bobby. James had a really close relationship with Bobby. They got along really well. Steph was really honest and loyal and open with us. And we felt like keeping them in the game was better for us. That didn't coincide with the HOHs wanted Adrian and Mallory. They wanted them gone. But in the long run, based on our current relationship with the Faircloths, the fear that they were really good at challenges, we felt like it was better for us that the Faircloths go, because I felt like they could potentially win the next round and one of us would end up gone. And Steph and Bobby were okay with us. Like, we were in a good place with them. And so we waited until, I think we had a 2-minute notice of either you vote or Adrian and Mallory get to vote for you. And so we voted. And again, that made a little bit of a rocky relationship with our alliance because they felt like we were being shady. But we struggled, and I was honest with them about why I had concerns about not voting out the Faircloths. But it was hard. We worked really hard that round to make sure that Drew and Clark were going, which was hard for me because my relationship with both of them is strong, and it was a struggle because things just didn't go how we wanted in this game. I think that we worked really hard in a lot of areas in this game, and at the end of the day, we made moves in order to position ourselves the best we could round by round. We won comps in order to stay safe, to stay off the block. We also worked our social game to get a power to help us get further in the game, to avoid being nominated until the 11th round. And really, we still were making decisions that were best for us. We weren't just following other people and doing what other people wanted. But we also stayed loyal. And I think for the most part, people knew where I stood and what I thought. And again, that may not be a good thing. I really think we navigated we had a lot of bumps in the road, whether it be relationships, trying to overcome things, people having to, like, working things out with my temper tantrums, I guess, of leaving chats, and my way of handling things, trying to make people understand, but also understanding them. And I think at this point, there's nothing you won't get from us but honesty. There's no reason to lie. There's no reason to excuse behavior. I appreciate you guys listening to this. This is about half the length of my last one, because I did go over and talk to each duo in the other video. But I think that you guys will ask us questions, and so we can say what we think then. I do appreciate you guys taking the time to listen to this, giving us a chance to explain things, at least our choices and why we made them. And I really appreciate, I guess, really being here. And I hope that everybody else had a fun time in this game. And I hope that we're able to answer people's questions, whether they're directed at me, directed at James, directed at our actions, whatnot. And I hope that we're able to fully explain why we feel like we did enough and why we deserve to win. So, best of luck. I hope after the game, I really can't wait to talk to a lot of you. It's probably the hardest thing is not talking to a lot of you. So again, thanks to production, thanks to James. Good luck.